The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the USN Defiant. Commander Olivia Martinez stood with her hands behind her back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. The ship hummed quietly around her, the crew going about their duties with practiced ease. 3,000 years of peace had made these routine patrols almost boring. "Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Zarelian diplomatic vessel," said Communications Officer Pamela Davis, her fingers moving quickly across her console. Olivia nodded. "Put it through to the main screen." The view screen flickered and the image of Ambassador Greztik appeared. The alien's translucent skin glowed with an orange tint that Olivia had never seen before. The 6 tentacle-like appendages framing his face were rigid and flared outward. Even with her limited understanding of Zarelian body language, Olivia could tell something was very wrong. "Ambassador Greztik, this is Commander Martinez. How may I assist you today?" she asked, keeping her tone professional. The alien's breathing apparatus made a wheezing sound before he spoke. "Commander Martinez, I come before you with grave news. For 3 millennia, we have maintained peace with your species. Today, that ends." A strange silence fell over the bridge. Olivia felt her first officer, Jack Owens, step closer to her side. "The High Council of the Zarelian Confederation has unanimously voted to declare war on humanity," continued Greztik, his voice modulator struggling to contain what seemed like intense emotion. "All diplomatic ties are hereby severed. You have been warned." Olivia blinked twice, wondering if she had misheard. She glanced at Jack, whose eyebrows were raised so high they nearly disappeared into his hairline. Looking around the bridge, she saw expressions ranging from confusion to poorly concealed amusement. "May I ask why?" she inquired politely, maintaining her composure. "Your expansion into the Cygnus sector violates ancient territorial agreements." Greztik's appendages quivered with what appeared to be rage. "The harmony of the cosmos has been disrupted by your careless colonization. This cannot stand." Olivia took a deep breath. She knew that humanity had established a small research outpost in the Cygnus sector last year, but all diplomatic channels had been followed. Permission had been granted by the Galactic Council. There was nothing in any database about Zarelian claims to that region. "Ambassador, I'm required to inform you that I acknowledge your declaration. I will transmit this information to Earth Central immediately. Is there anything else you wish to communicate at this time? Prepare yourselves, humans. The might of the Zarelian fleet will soon be upon you." With that final declaration, the transmission ended. For 3 seconds, nobody on the bridge moved or spoke. Then Lieutenant Greg Peterson at the tactical station snorted, trying to hold back laughter. That broke the dam. The bridge erupted in barely contained chuckles and outright laughter. "Did that just happen?" Jack asked, wiping tears from his eyes. "Did they just declare war on us? The Zarelians?" Olivia allowed herself a small smile. "It appears so." "Commander," said Science Officer Frank Miller, pulling up data on his screen. "Just as a reminder, the Zarelian fleet consists of approximately 200 vessels using technology we consider roughly equivalent to our 24th century capabilities." "And how does that compare to our current defenses?" Olivia asked, already knowing the answer but wanting it on record. "Their most advanced weapons cannot penetrate even our civilian vessel shields," Frank replied. "They're faster than light drives, are roughly 8 generations behind our current technology. They have no quantum displacement capabilities, no neural interfaces, and their AI systems are, well, they're cute." More laughter rippled through the bridge. What none of the Zarelians knew, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that humanity had moved beyond the need for traditional warfare centuries ago. After the Great Unification of 2287, humans had developed technologies that made conventional conflict obsolete. Wars fought with weapons were relics of a distant past, stories told to school children about the primitive days before humanity grew up. "Should we tell them?" Jack asked, still grinning. "I almost feel bad for them." "That's not our call," Olivia replied. "Central will handle the diplomatic response. For now, let's just document this incident and continue our patrol." She turned to Pamela. Send the full recording to Earth Central with priority flagging. Include all our sensor data from the Zarelian vessel. Yes, Commander. Sending now. Olivia settled into her command chair, bringing up the star charts for their patrol route. She wondered how Earth would respond to this unexpected declaration. The last actual conflict humanity had engaged in was so long ago that most people only knew about it from history lessons. "Do you think they'll actually attack?" asked Navigator Ben Collins, his young face showing genuine curiosity rather than concern. "If they do, they're in for quite a surprise," replied Security Chief Natalie Wright. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about the last time someone tried to attack Earth. The Draconin Incident, I think it was called." "What happened?" Ben asked. "They sent their whole armada to our solar system," Natalie said with a grin. "We turned all their weapons into flower dispensers. Their ships arrived at Earth shooting rose petals at our defense platforms. It was apparently quite beautiful." The bridge crew laughed again. The tension of the moment completely dissolved. 6 hours later, Olivia was in her private quarters reviewing reports when her communication panel chimed. The face of Fleet Admiral Daniel Cruz appeared on her screen. "Commander Martinez, I received your report about the Zarelian declaration," he said, his expression serious but with a twinkle in his eye. "I must commend you on your professional handling of the situation." "Thank you, Admiral. What's our response going to be?" Daniel's serious expression broke into a smile. "Well, first we're going to let them try their little invasion. We've already set up the bubble defense grid. Their ships will be contained without any harm coming to them." "And then?" Olivia asked. "And then," Daniel said with a chuckle, "we're going to teach them about humanity's approach to conflict resolution in the 53rd century. It should be quite educational for them." As Olivia ended the call, she couldn't help but smile. The Zarelians had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Humanity hadn't just advanced technologically in the last few thousand years. They had evolved culturally and philosophically as well. This war might be the best thing to happen to interspecies relations in centuries. She looked out at the stars through her viewport and whispered, "Good luck, Ambassador Grestick. You're going to need it." Fleet Admiral Daniel Cruz sat at the head of the oval table in Earth Central's main conference room. The large windows showed the beautiful blue sky of New Washington, where birds flew freely around the gleaming towers. He looked at the faces of the 17 Galactic Council representatives seated around him. Most showed concern or outright fear after hearing the news about the Zarelian declaration of war. "Admiral Cruz," said Talara, the blue-skinned Andromean ambassador, "aren't you concerned? The Zarelians possess significant military capabilities. Their fleet is moving toward your solar system as we speak." Daniel smiled and tapped his datapad. A three-dimensional hologram appeared in the center of the table, showing the movements of the Zarelian fleet. "Compared to what exactly?" he asked calmly. He expanded the hologram, displaying detailed information about the technological disparity between the human and Zarelian forces. The aliens, for all their aggressive posturing, were using propulsion systems that humans had, abandoned 800 years ago. Their weapons technology relied on principles that humanity had transcended before colonizing Mars. Science Officer Kelly Wright stood up and pointed to specific parts of the hologram. "We could disable their entire fleet without harming a single Zarelian," she explained. "Their targeting systems can't even detect our defensive fields." "But why would they start a war they cannot win?" asked the Rigelian representative, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. Daniel sighed. "That's what we're trying to figure out. Our linguists and cultural experts are reviewing all historical records of our interactions with the Zarelians. There may be a misunderstanding." After the meeting ended and the alien representatives left, Daniel turned to Kelly. "What's the status of the bubble defense?" "Fully operational, Admiral. The moment their ships enter our solar system, the space-time distortion fields will activate. They'll be redirected into a safe holding pattern where they can do no harm to themselves or others." Daniel nodded. "And we've evacuated all research personnel from the Cygnus sector?" "Yes, sir. The outpost is empty, though we left all non-essential equipment in place. If the Zarelians want to investigate, they'll find nothing of strategic value." "Good." Daniel looked out the window at the peaceful city below. I want this resolved without a single casualty on either side. 3 days later, the first wave of Xerelian battleships entered the solar system. Earth Central's defense room buzzed with activity as officers monitored the situation. Daniel stood in the center, watching the main screen with interest. Xerelian vessels have crossed the Neptune orbital line, announced Defense Coordinator Alan Foster. They're moving in battle formation, weapons hot. Activate the bubble, Daniel ordered. Alan pressed his palm against the control panel. Bubble activated. On the screen, the red dots representing Xerelian ships suddenly changed course, flowing into a circular pattern well away from any human settlements or spacecraft. The aliens fired their weapons. Energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against the invisible barrier of the bubble. They're trying to communicate, said Communications Officer Diane Miller. The message is being broadcast on all frequencies. Let's hear it, Daniel said. The angry voice of what must have been a Xerelian military commander filled the room. Humans, your cowardly defenses will not save you. Face us in honorable combat or surrender your illegal outposts immediately. Several officers tried to hide their smiles. Daniel maintained his professional composure as he approached the communication terminal. This is Fleet Admiral Daniel Cruz of Earth Central. We acknowledge your presence in our solar system. We have no desire for conflict and invite you to peaceful discussions. Deception, the Xerelian commander shouted. Your kind speaks of peace while violating sacred space. We will not be fooled by your tricks. The transmission cut off. Daniel looked at Alan. Are they still firing? Yes, sir. They've been firing continuously for the past 8 minutes. No effect on the bubble. How long before they run out of energy? At that rate? Alan checked his calculations. Their reactor design suggests they can maintain continuous fire for approximately 12 hours before needing to recharge. 12 hours of shooting at nothing, Daniel murmured. What a waste of energy. Should we respond with a show of force? Asked another officer. Daniel shook his head firmly. Absolutely not. We don't need to prove anything. Let them exhaust themselves. He turned to his assistant. Contact Dr. Nancy Palmer. I want our best xenoanthropologist looking into Xerelian culture and history. There's something we're missing here. Later that evening, Daniel stood on the observation deck of Earth Central, looking up at the night sky. The stars twinkled peacefully, giving no hint of the alien fleet trapped in the bubble millions of miles away. A soft chime announced someone's arrival. He turned to see Kelly Wright approaching with a datapad. Any news? He asked. The Xerelians have stopped firing, Kelly said. They appear to be regrouping and discussing their next move. And Dr. Palmer? She's found something interesting in the archives. She's requesting a meeting with the Emergency Council tomorrow morning. Daniel nodded. Schedule it. First thing. Also, Kelly added with a slight smile, the catering department wants to know if we should send refreshments to the Xerelian ships. Daniel couldn't help but laugh. You're not serious. Half serious. Captain Chris Peterson from the USN Harmony suggested it. He thought it might help break the ice. Daniel considered this for a moment. Tell Captain Peterson that diplomatic refreshments might be premature, but to keep thinking creatively. We'll need all the good ideas we can get. As Kelly left, Daniel returned his gaze to the stars. In the 3,000 years since humanity had joined the galactic community, they had transformed from a warlike species into something else entirely. They had mastered their violent impulses, channeled their competitive nature into creativity and exploration, and developed technologies that made traditional warfare obsolete. The Xerelians, it seemed, had not yet learned that declaring war on humans in the 53rd century was like bringing a knife to a confrontation with a ghost. Pointless, since the blade would simply pass through without effect. What are you really after? Daniel whispered to the distant aliens. And why choose war when we've been at peace for so long? The answers, he hoped, would come tomorrow. For now, the Xerelian fleet remained safely contained in the bubble, unable to harm anyone, including themselves, while humanity tried to understand what had gone so terribly wrong. Dr. Nancy Palmer had not slept in 36 hours. The xenoanthropologist's office was a mess of holographic displays, ancient text translations, and empty coffee cups. She rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the final piece of evidence that confirmed her theory. "That's it," she whispered to herself. "That's the mistake." She quickly gathered her notes and rushed to the emergency council meeting. The council chamber was already full when she arrived. Fleet Admiral Daniel Cruz sat at the center of the table with various military and diplomatic officials around him. All conversation stopped when Nancy entered. "Dr. Palmer," Daniel said with a nod, "I understand you found something important." Nancy took a deep breath as she connected her datapad to the room's display system. Ancient Zarellian texts and translation matrices appeared on the large screen behind her. "We found the problem," she announced to the emergency council. "It's a translation error that has persisted for 3,000 years. The council members looked at her with expectation in their eyes. The original peace treaty between humans and Zarellians was never about physical territory, Nancy explained, highlighting specific symbols in the ancient text. The Zarellian word we translated as territorial boundaries actually means cosmic harmony. She pulled up side-by-side comparisons of the original text and the human translation. The mistake is subtle, but critical. See this symbol here? We thought it referred to physical space, but it actually refers to spiritual balance. The Zarellians believe we've disrupted the harmony of the universe. Stephen Grant, Earth's diplomatic liaison, leaned forward with a frown. "So they're not angry about us taking their territory in the Cygnus sector?" "No," Nancy replied. "They're upset because they think we've messed with some kind of cosmic balance by establishing our research outpost there." Stephen ran a hand through his gray hair. "So they're not angry about physical space? They're upset because they think we've messed with some kind of cosmic feng shui?" "Essentially, yes," Nancy replied. "And here's the most interesting part. Their concept of war isn't about military conquest either." She highlighted another section of text. The Zarellian word for war that we've been using actually translates closer to forceful spiritual intervention. The council room fell silent as the implications sank in. "So, they're not trying to conquer us," Stephen said slowly. "They're trying to save our souls?" Nancy nodded. "They're essentially staging a cosmic intervention. They believe that by establishing our outpost in the Cygnus sector, we've thrown off the balance of energy in the universe, which could lead to some kind of spiritual catastrophe." Admiral Cruz looked thoughtful. "That explains why they seemed so confused by our defense measures. They weren't expecting a military response because they weren't launching a military attack in the first place." "Exactly," Nancy said. "In their minds, they're trying to help us correct a terrible mistake before it's too late." Linda Cooper, the head of scientific research, raised her hand. "What exactly is special about the Cygnus sector that makes it so important to their spiritual beliefs?" Nancy changed the display to show star charts. "According to ancient Zarellian spiritual texts, the Cygnus sector is one of 7 cosmic anchor points that maintain the balance of positive and negative energy in the universe. They believe these points should remain untouched by artificial structures or technology." "And our research outpost is disrupting this balance?" Linda asked. "In their view, yes," Nancy confirmed. "The outpost's quantum communication array in particular. The energy patterns it generates are similar to what the Zarellians call soul waves in their spiritual texts." Admiral Cruz stood up and paced around the table. "So for 3,000 years we've been mistranslating key terms in our agreements with the Zarellians. And now they think we're endangering the spiritual fabric of the universe." "That's the simple version, yes," Nancy said. Stephen Grant shook his head with a slight smile. "Well, this is certainly easier to fix than an actual war. We can relocate the research outpost. It's only a small facility." "It's not that simple," Nancy cautioned. "The Zarellians now believe we've already caused damage that needs to be repaired. Simply removing the outpost won't be enough in their view." "So what do they expect us to do?" Admiral Cruz asked. Nancy hesitated. "Based on my analysis of their communication patterns and cultural texts, I believe they expect us to participate in some kind of purification ritual to restore the cosmic balance." The room was quiet for a moment before Linda Cooper started laughing. Several others joined in. "I'm sorry," Linda said, trying to control her laughter. But the idea that an advanced alien civilization declared war on us because they want us to join their spiritual cleansing ceremony is just too much. Admiral Cruz raised his hand for silence, though he was smiling too. This may seem amusing to us, but to the Zarelians, this is deadly serious. We need to respect their beliefs while finding a solution that works for everyone. I have a suggestion, said Education Minister Paul Green, who had been quiet until now. Why not turn this into a cultural exchange? If they want to share their spiritual practices with us, we can share ours with them. Humans have thousands of different spiritual and philosophical traditions. It could be an opportunity for mutual understanding. Admiral Cruz nodded slowly. I like that approach. Dr. Palmer, do you think the Zarelians would be receptive to that kind of exchange? Nancy thought for a moment. From what I understand of their culture, yes. They value knowledge and harmony above all else. If we frame this as a chance to achieve greater universal harmony through shared wisdom, they might be open to it. Then that's our approach, Admiral Cruz decided. Stephen, work with Dr. Palmer to draft a response to the Zarelians. Explain that we understand their concerns now and wish to establish a dialogue about cosmic harmony. As the meeting continued, Nancy felt relief wash over her. What had started as a bizarre declaration of war was turning into a potential breakthrough in human-Zarelian relations. After 3,000 years of peace based on misunderstandings, perhaps they could now build a relationship based on genuine comprehension. Outside the council chamber, word was spreading throughout Earth Central. The war with the Zarelians wasn't about territory or power or resources. It was about spirituality and cosmic balance. Many found it hard not to smile at the thought of the fearsome Zarelian fleet, weapons hot, coming to save humanity's collective soul. As Nancy left the meeting, she overheard two junior officers talking. So they're not trying to kill us, one said. They're trying to get us to join their cosmic meditation circle? Basically, the other replied. I guess we should be flattered they care so much about our spiritual well-being. Both laughed, but Nancy knew that beneath the humor lay an opportunity for something profound. Sometimes the greatest misunderstandings led to the deepest connections. Perhaps this war would lead to exactly that. Captain Ryan Phillips stood at attention in the gleaming white conference room of Earth Central. The screens that lined the walls showed various views of the Zarelian fleet, still trapped in the bubble defense system. After 3 days of unsuccessful attempts to break through, the alien ships had finally stopped firing their weapons and settled into a holding pattern. Director Lisa Morgan entered the room, followed by Admiral Cruz and Dr. Nancy Palmer. Their faces looked serious, but Ryan noticed a hint of amusement in their eyes. Captain Phillips, Director Morgan began, we've developed our response to the Zarelian War, and it's not what anyone expected. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Ma'am? We're going to throw them a party, announced Director Morgan, her face completely serious. Ryan blinked several times. I'm sorry, Director. Did you say a party? A cultural festival, to be precise, Admiral Cruz explained. The Zarelians believe we've disrupted cosmic harmony, so we'll show them how humans celebrate harmony, with music, art, food, and cultural exchange. Dr. Palmer stepped forward with her datapad. Based on our new understanding of Zarelian spiritual beliefs, we think this approach will resonate with them. They value harmony and balance above all things. What better way to demonstrate our respect for these values than by celebrating them? Ryan tried to process this information. So instead of fighting them, we're inviting them to a festival? Exactly, Director Morgan said with a nod. We're transforming Lunar Base Alpha into the biggest interspecies cultural festival ever organized. Every human colony will transmit artistic performances, philosophical discussions, and celebrations of life. Ryan looked at the screens showing the Zarelian warships. But what about their fleet? They came here to fight. Director Morgan smiled. We'll invite them, of course. Their ships are still circling in the bubble. We'll simply redirect them to the visitor docking stations. The plan was audacious. Lunar Base Alpha, Earth's largest off-world settlement, would host representatives from every human world and colony. The base's enormous central dome, usually used for agricultural experiments, would be transformed into a celebration space. Artists, musicians, philosophers, and spiritual leaders from across human space would gather to share their traditions. Your ship, the USN Harmony, will be the escort for the Zarelian leadership, Admiral Cruz told Ryan. Once they agree to attend, you'll guide their flagship to Lunar Base Alpha. And if they don't agree? Ryan asked. Dr. Palmer smiled. They will. I've drafted a message explaining our new understanding of their concerns. We acknowledge the spiritual importance of the Cygnus sector and express our desire to learn more about cosmic harmony. The message has been translated using our corrected understanding of their language. The quantum communication array at our research outpost has already been shut down, Admiral Cruz added. We've also begun dismantling the facility. This should show the Zarelians that we respect their beliefs. 2 days later, Ryan stood on the bridge of the USN Harmony, watching as the bubble defense system carefully released the Zarelian flagship from its hold. The massive alien vessel, shaped like a spiral with glowing blue energy patterns along its hull, moved cautiously toward them. They're hailing us, Captain, said Communications Officer Andy Miller. On screen, Ryan ordered. The image of Grand Admiral Greztik appeared. The Zarelian leader looked confused but curious. His skin had changed from angry orange to a more neutral yellow shade. Human vessel, Greztik said formally. We have received your message and invitation. This is most unexpected, Ryan smiled. Grand Admiral, on behalf of humanity, I welcome you. We look forward to sharing our understanding of harmony with you and learning from your wisdom. You truly wish to correct the cosmic imbalance? Greztik asked, still suspicious. We wish to understand it better, Ryan replied honestly. And we wish to share our own perspectives on universal balance. My ship will escort you to Lunar Base Alpha, where representatives from all human worlds await you. Greztik conferred briefly, with other Zarelians off-screen before turning back. We accept your invitation, but know that we remain vigilant. This could be a human trick. No tricks, Admiral, Ryan assured him. Just an opportunity for greater understanding. As the USN Harmony led the Zarelian flagship toward the moon, Ryan received updates from Lunar Base Alpha. The preparations were complete. The Great Dome had been transformed into a celebration of human cultures from across 3,000 years and 500 worlds. There were Japanese Zen gardens next to African drum circles. Christian monks stood near Hindu priests. Quantum philosophers discussed the nature of reality with spiritual leaders from a dozen traditions. When the Zarelian ships finally docked at Lunar Base Alpha, Ryan watched from an observation deck as the alien visitors emerged. They moved cautiously, their tentacle-like appendages twitching nervously. Some carried ceremonial objects that Ryan guessed were spiritual in nature. A group of human greeters approached them, led by Director Morgan herself. She bowed in the traditional Zarelian greeting posture that Dr. Palmer had taught her. Welcome to Lunar Base Alpha, she said warmly. We invite you to share in our celebration of universal harmony. The Zarelians seemed stunned by their reception. Instead of armed guards, they found smiling humans offering them drinks and food. Instead of prison cells, they saw beautiful spaces filled with art and music. Their weapons, rendered completely inert by human dampening fields, were politely ignored. Ryan watched as one young Zarelian warrior was approached by a human child who offered him a flower. The alien hesitated, then carefully accepted the gift. His skin color shifted from yellow to a soft blue, the Zarelian equivalent of a smile. Throughout the day, more Zarelian ships arrived. What had begun as a war fleet was transforming into a delegation of cultural exchange. Human scientists discussed the concept of cosmic anchor points with Zarelian spiritual leaders. Human artists collaborated with Zarelian craftspeople to create new works that celebrated both traditions. In the center of the Great Dome, Admiral Cruz and Grand Admiral Greztik stood side by side, watching the mingling of their peoples. When we launched our fleet, Greztik admitted, this is not what we expected. War rarely gives us what we expect, Admiral Cruz replied. But peace, Peace often surprises us with its possibilities. Greztik's skin rippled with patterns of blue and green. Your people do not seem concerned about the cosmic imbalance we warned you about. Admiral Cruz smiled. We take it seriously enough to want to understand it better. That's why we've invited your spiritual leaders to explain it to us, and why we've gathered our own wisdom keepers to share their perspectives. As the festival continued into the night, Ryan found himself sitting with a group of Zarelian warriors and human security officers. They were exchanging stories of their training and adventures. Despite their different biologies and beliefs, they found common ground in their shared experiences. We came to save your souls, a Zarelian officer named Krelvok said, his translator, making his chuckle sound like static. But perhaps we have things to learn from you as well. Ryan raised his glass in a toast. To learning from each other. That's what harmony is all about. Around them, humans and Zarelians continued to forge new connections, turning a declaration of war into something far more valuable, a genuine meeting of different worlds. Grand Admiral Greztik of the Zarelian fleet stood speechless as he watched humans and Zarelians mingling on the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha. The festival had been going on for 3 days now. What had begun as a tense diplomatic situation had transformed into the most significant cultural exchange in galactic history. Earth hung in the viewport, blue and serene against the blackness of space. Beside him, Earth President Maria Gonzalez sipped from a glass of champagne. Her simple white dress contrasted with the elaborate ceremonial armor Greztik still wore. You understand now why we found your declaration so amusing, she said gently. We haven't fought a war, a real war, in over a millennium. But our intelligence, Greztik began, his translator struggling to convey his confusion, was based on outdated understanding of human nature, Maria finished for him. We evolved past violence centuries ago. We could have destroyed your fleet the moment it entered our system. But why would we? Life is too precious. Greztik's skin rippled with patterns of blue and green, the Zarelian equivalent of thoughtful reflection. Your response was unexpected. When we declared our intention to restore cosmic harmony through forceful intervention, we anticipated resistance. Instead, we threw you a party, Maria said with a smile. Yes, Greztik agreed. A most effective counter-strategy. Across the observation deck, Dr. Nancy Palmer was deep in conversation with the high spiritual guardian of the Zarelian Confederation. The elderly alien's skin was almost transparent, showing the complex network of energy pathways beneath. They sat surrounded by ancient texts and holographic displays of star charts. So these 7 points, Nancy said, pointing to specific locations on the star map, are what you call cosmic anchor points. Yes, the guardian replied. They maintain the flow of spiritual energy throughout the galaxy. When your quantum communication array activated in the Cygnus sector, it created a disruption in the anchor point there. Nancy nodded. Our scientists have analyzed the data. The quantum resonance from our technology does create unusual energy patterns. We never realized it might have wider implications. The Guardian's appendages waved gently. Most species do not perceive these energies. It is why we Zarelians have taken on the responsibility of protecting the anchor points for the past 50,000 years. And now we've agreed to help, Nancy said. The research outpost has been completely dismantled. Our engineers are already working with your spiritual technicians to develop new communication technology that won't disrupt the cosmic energies. In Dwir. Another part of the base, Captain Ryan Phillips watched as human children taught young Zarelians how to fly kites in the artificial wind currents of the agricultural dome. The alien children, with their smaller tentacles and bright blue skin, laughed in their strange bubbling way as the colorful kites soared above them. They adapt quickly, said Commander Olivia Martinez, who had joined him at the festival after her patrol duty ended. Ryan nodded. It's hard to believe that just a week ago they were firing weapons at us. Well, technically they were firing at the bubble, not at us, Olivia corrected with a smile. But I know what you mean. It's amazing how quickly understanding can replace fear. Ryan watched as a human boy helped a small Zorellian untangle its kite strings. I've been thinking about what Dr. Palmer discovered, about the translation error that's been in our systems for 3,000 years. The one that mixed up territorial boundaries with cosmic harmony? Olivia asked. Yes. It makes me wonder, what other misunderstandings might be out there between us and other species? How many conflicts could be avoided with better communication? That's why this festival is so important, Olivia said. It's not just about resolving this specific incident. It's about building a foundation for better understanding in the future. In the Central Dome, Admiral Cruz and Director Morgan were meeting with the Zorellian High Council members who had arrived the previous day. The formal negotiation table had been replaced with comfortable seating arranged in a circle. Drinks and food from both worlds were shared freely. We propose a joint stewardship of the cosmic anchor points, Admiral Cruz suggested. Your people have the spiritual knowledge while we have technological capabilities that might help monitor and protect these important sites. The lead counselor, whose name was Vreltak, considered this. For 50,000 years, this has been our sacred duty alone. And you've done it well, Director Morgan said diplomatically. But perhaps it's time for shared responsibility. After all, we share this galaxy. There is wisdom in your words, Vreltak admitted. A partnership would also help prevent future misunderstandings. As the day turned to evening, a special ceremony was prepared in the Central Dome. Thousands of humans and Zorellians gathered in concentric circles. In the center, President Gonzalez and Grand Admiral Greztig stood before a strange device that combined human quantum technology with Zorellian spiritual artifacts. Today, President Gonzalez announced, we correct a 3,000-year-old mistake. Today we establish not just peace, but true harmony between our peoples. Greztig stepped forward. For millennia, we believed humans were ignorant of cosmic balance. We now see that you simply perceive it differently. Today we combine our understanding. Together they activated the device. A soft blue light expanded from it, washing over the gathered crowd. Human quantum sensors recorded the energy patterns while Zorellian spiritual leaders guided the flow. It was a symbolic gesture but also a practical one. The first test of their new combined approach to monitoring cosmic energy. As the light faded, the crowd erupted in applause and the Zorellian equivalent, a harmonic humming that vibrated through the air. Later that night, Grand Admiral Greztig found himself alone with President Gonzalez on a quiet balcony overlooking the celebration. So what happens now? Greztig asked. Maria smiled. Now we renegotiate our treaty. Properly, this time. We've already begun work on a new translation matrix that will prevent future misunderstandings. And perhaps you could teach us more about cosmic harmony. We're quite interested. And our declaration of war? Greztig asked hesitantly. Maria laughed. Consider it the beginning of a beautiful friendship instead. Sometimes the universe works in strange ways. What began as conflict has led to greater understanding. Greztig's appendages slowly shifted from orange to a peaceful blue. I believe, he said carefully, that the High Council made a significant miscalculation. Don't worry, Maria replied with a gentle laugh. It's not the first time someone has underestimated humanity, and I doubt it will be the last. Behind them, humans and Zorellians raised their glasses in a toast to 3,000 more years of peace, this time with a much better understanding. The stars seemed to shine brighter that night, as if the cosmos itself approved of the harmony being restored, not through war, but through laughter, understanding, and the simple joy of different worlds coming together.